You've seen the videos. A cat is eating, calm, relaxed, and someone quietly places a cucumber on the floor behind it. The cat turns, sees it, and launches into the air like it's been electrocuted, fleeing in pure terror from a vegetable. Millions of people have laughed at those clips, and almost every one of them has misunderstood what they're actually watching, which is not a silly cat being dumb. It's a survival system firing exactly as designed, and the joke is crueler than it looks. Because your cat's fears aren't random and they aren't stupid. The cucumber, the vacuum, the sudden noise, the new object it refuses to walk past. Every one of those irrational fears traces back to a single, ancient piece of programming that kept your cat's ancestors alive for millions of years. And once you understand the rule behind it, your cat's strangest, most baffling fears suddenly make perfect, even brilliant sense. So hold on to two things. First, the cucumber scare isn't about a cucumber, and the popular, they think it's a snake explanation is only half the truth. The real trigger is something more specific, and it's the reason you should never, ever do it to your cat. And second, there's a single underlying rule that explains every weird fear your cat has: vacuum, stranger, sudden movement, all of it. And once you see it, you'll never call your cat's fear irrational again. By the end, you'll have it. And stick around, because the strangest part is this. Your cat's fearfulness isn't a weakness or a quirk to fix. It's a sign of one of the most finely tuned survival brains in the animal kingdom, and the most frightened cat might be the smartest one in the room. Here's why understanding this matters beyond winning an argument about cucumber videos. We constantly misread our cat's fear as silliness, stubbornness, or being dramatic. And because we think it's irrational, we respond to it badly. We force a scared cat toward the thing it fears to show it there's nothing to worry about. We laugh at it, we flood it. And every one of those responses makes the fear worse, because we're overriding a survival system instead of working with it. And there's a real welfare cost hiding in the fun. Those cucumber pranks aren't harmless. A cat launched into panic can injure itself, knock into furniture, hurt a leg, and worse. You've just taught it that its safe zone, the place it eats, the one spot it trusted completely, can suddenly contain a threat. You've broken its sense of security in its own home for a few seconds of content. Understanding what fear actually is to a cat is the difference between making your cat feel safe and accidentally terrorizing it. Researchers who study animal fear and the evolution of the startle response have this mapped precisely. So the question I want in the back of your mind: when your cat panics at something harmless, is it being irrational, or is it being smart in a way you've forgotten how to read? Because it's the second one every single time. Let's start with the cucumber, because once you understand it, you understand all of it. The popular explanation is that cats think the cucumber is a snake, and there's a sliver of truth there. A long, green, curved object does share a rough shape with a serious predator that cats are wired to fear. But that's not the core of it, and here's the part that actually matters. Watch when the prank works. The cat is almost always eating, head down, relaxed, in a spot it considers completely safe. And the cucumber appears silently behind it in a place that was empty 1 second ago. So the cat lifts its head, turns, and finds an object that was not there before, an unknown thing that materialized without sound, right in the heart of its safe zone, in its blind spot. To a cat's survival brain, that is the textbook signature of a predator that has snuck up on it. Not the cucumber's shape, its sudden, silent appearance in a place that was just verified as safe. The cat doesn't have time to reason that's a vegetable. Its startle reflex fires first, instantly, and the body does the only smart thing: explode away from the unknown threat before checking what it is. Think of a cat named Tofu, whose owner did this once for a laugh. Tofu shot 3 feet in the air, crashed into a chair, and then refused to eat in that spot for a week. The fear wasn't of cucumbers. It was that the one place Tofu felt safe enough to put his head down had betrayed him. That's the first half of loop 1 closing. The cucumber scare isn't about a cucumber, it's about a silent unknown violating a safe space, and that's exactly why you must never do it. You're not pranking your cat, you're teaching it that nowhere is safe. But here's where it gets interesting, because the same logic explains a fear that seems totally different: the vacuum. A vacuum cleaner terrifies cats, and on the surface it's nothing like a cucumber. But underneath, it's the same machinery. A vacuum is enormous, it's loud in a way nothing natural is, it moves unpredictably, and crucially, the cat cannot categorize it. It's not clearly prey, not clearly another animal, not clearly safe. It's a large, roaring, advancing unknown. And when a cat's brain encounters something it can't file as safe, it defaults to the only safe assumption a prey animal can afford. Threat: the cat flees not because it knows the vacuum is dangerous, but because it can't be sure it isn't, and being wrong about that, even once, could be fatal. That's the bridge to the rule that runs underneath everything. Loop 2. Here's the single principle that explains every irrational fear your cat has. Behavioral scientists call it error management, and the simplest way to understand it is the smoke detector principle. A smoke detector is designed to go off at the faintest hint of smoke. And yes, that means it shrieks at burnt toast constantly. It produces tons of false alarms. But that's deliberate because the cost of a false alarm is trivial, a moment of annoyance, while the cost of a missed alarm is catastrophic. You burn to death. So the system is tuned to massively overreact because the two errors are not equal. Your cat's fear works exactly the same way. Imagine a wild cat that encounters a stick that looks vaguely like a snake. If it panics and flees and it was just a stick, it lost nothing but a few seconds. But if it stays calm, decides probably just a stick, and it was actually a snake, it dies. One mistake costs seconds, the other costs everything. So across millions of years, evolution wired cats to make the cheap mistake every time. Treat anything ambiguous as a threat, flee first, verify later. Every weird fear your cat has is this rule in action. The cucumber, the vacuum, the plastic bag that crinkled wrong, the stranger, the umbrella opening, your cat isn't being irrational. It's running a system that assumes the worst about the unknown, because every ancestor that didn't got eaten and left no kittens. That's loop 2, closed. There is one rule under all of it, and it's not stupidity, it's the smartest survival math there is. And it all happens faster than thought. In the split second of a startle, the cat's body executes the whole program before any conscious decision. The pupils blow wide to flood in light and information, the heart rate spikes, a surge of adrenaline floods the muscles. The fur along the spine and tail stands on end to make the cat look bigger, and the legs are already launching it away from the threat. The cat isn't deciding to be afraid, the survival system has hijacked the body and acted, and only afterward from a safe distance does the cat turn and actually look at what scared it. That order matters, flee first, identify second. By the time your cat is staring back at the cucumber from across the room, the smart, expensive work is already done. It survived a thing that might have killed it, at the cost of nothing but a startled leap. Now forget specific objects for a second, because there's a deeper version of this fear, the fear of the unknown itself. It's called neophobia, fear of the new, and cats have it strongly. This is why your cat flees from a new piece of furniture, a shopping bag left on the floor, a cardboard box that wasn't there yesterday, or that decorative statue you just bought. To you, it's obviously harmless. To your cat, it's an unverified object that has appeared in its carefully mapped territory. And until it's been cautiously investigated and proven safe, it has to be treated as a potential threat. Think of a cat named Bean, who hid for an entire evening because her owner brought home a new floor lamp. Bean wasn't broken. She was doing her job. A new, large, unfamiliar thing had entered her safe territory, and her survival brain insisted on treating it as guilty until proven innocent. Give a neophobic cat time and zero pressure, and it'll do what cats do, approach the new thing slowly, sniff it, bat it, and once it's confirmed harmless, file it as safe and never fear it again. The fear isn't permanent. It's a security check. We're almost at the strangest part, the truth about fearfulness itself. But first, there's one whole category of fear we have to cover, because it's the one owners feel most helpless about: sound. Thunderstorms, fireworks, the smoke alarm, the crinkle of tin foil, a dropped pan sound set cats off in a way that can seem wildly out of proportion. But remember who's listening. Your cat hears frequencies far higher than you do, and its hearing is dramatically sharper than ours. So a sound that registers to you as a normal bang lands on your cat as something enormous, sudden, and there's that word again, unidentifiable. A clap of thunder isn't just loud to a cat. It's a colossal, unpredictable, sourceless event with no visible cause, which is about the most alarming thing a survival brain can encounter. Fireworks are worse. Deafening, random, and impossible to locate or escape. Think of a cat named Maple, who vanishes under the bed at the first distant rumble of a storm her owner can barely hear, not because she's fragile, but because her ears caught the threat long before her human did, and her brain did the math. Huge, sudden, unknown, no source get to cover now. The crinkle of foil or a plastic bag works on a smaller scale for a related reason. That high, sharp, sudden sound can mimic the frequency range of distress or alarm, and it arrives faster than the cat can place it. None of these fears are an overreaction. They're a superior sense of hearing feeding a survival brain that treats the unexplained as dangerous. Your cat isn't scared of nothing. It's scared of something you literally cannot hear well enough to fear. But first, the reveal that ties it all together. Here's the truth underneath all of it. Your cat is not a jumpy, neurotic, irrational little creature that's scared of vegetables. It is carrying one of the most sophisticated threat detection systems evolution ever built. A system tuned, deliberately, to overreact to anything it can't immediately prove is safe. Because for the entire history of its species, that overreaction was the difference between living and dying. Every fear you've laughed at is that system working perfectly. The cat was never the problem. Our reading of it was, and that finally brings us to the strangest part, and it flips the whole thing on its head. We treat a fearful cat as a defective one. The skittish cat, the one that bolts at sudden movements, that hides from guests, that startles easily, we call it nervous, anxious, a scaredy cat, like it's a flaw to be fixed. But here's the reframe. In the wild, that fearfulness is not a weakness. It's the single most important survival trait a small predator-prey animal can have. A fearless cat, a cat that calmly investigates every new thing, that doesn't flee from ambiguity, that assumes the unknown is safe, is a dead cat. It gets eaten, it eats the wrong thing. It walks up to the predator. The cats that survived to become your cat's ancestors were the cautious ones, the jumpy ones, the ones that fled first and asked questions later. Your cat's strangest fear isn't a malfunction. It's the inheritance of 10,000 generations of survivors. So when your cat startles at a sound you can't even hear, or refuses to trust the new object, or bolts from the cucumber, what you're seeing isn't a fragile animal. You're seeing an intact, healthy, beautifully calibrated survival brain doing exactly what kept its line alive. And that completely changes how you should respond to it. You don't fix a scared cat by forcing it toward its fear. That just confirms the threat and shatters its trust in you. You help it the way its own instincts want. Never flood it, never corner it, always leave it an escape route and a safe high place. You let it approach new things on its own timeline. And you slowly, patiently pair the scary thing with good things, the vacuum running quietly in another room while treats appear, so its survival brain can refile the threat as safe, one calm exposure at a time. You work with the system, not against it. That's the stick-around payoff. Closed. The fear isn't a flaw to override, it's a feature to respect, and respecting it is how you become the one human a fearful cat fully trusts. So here's where we land. We started with a cat fleeing a cucumber while the internet laughed, a silly, irrational, jumpy little animal, and we found the opposite. Your cat's fears are a precise, ancient, ruthlessly logical survival system. Assume the unknown is a threat, flee the ambiguous, verify nothing until you're safe because every ancestor that did otherwise died. The cucumber, the vacuum, the new lamp, the sudden sound, none of it is stupid. All of it is the smartest gamble a small animal can make. And the most frightened cat in the room isn't the weakest one. It's the one whose survival brain is most intact, the one most faithfully carrying the caution that kept an entire species alive. If you think back across everything, the cat that hides from the unscented guest, that assesses every threat from safety, that maps its territory so carefully. This is the same animal once more, and the fear is the engine under all of it. It's not silly, it's survival, and it's just written in a language we were never taught to read until now, so let's account for everything. The cucumber scare isn't about a cucumber and isn't really about snakes. It's a silent unknown violating a safe zone, which is exactly why you should never do it. Closed. The single rule under every weird fear, the smoke detector principle, treat the ambiguous as a threat because the cost of being wrong is fatal. Closed. And the strangest one, the truth that fearfulness isn't a flaw but the sign of a healthy survival brain, and that you help a scared cat by respecting that system instead of overriding it. Closed. But sometimes your cat reacts with that same fear, the wide eyes, the frozen stare, the sudden tension to something that isn't there. It locks onto an empty corner of the ceiling. It tracks something across a blank wall. And you look and there's nothing. Except there is. Your cat is reacting to a real thing in that room, a sound, a movement, a sliver of light that your senses simply cannot detect. What your cat perceives that you can't is genuinely unsettling. That's the next one. I'll meet you there. Next one. I'll meet you there.